Hooters was once a famous American restaurant company known for its casual dining, sports bar setting, and servers in signature uniforms. The world says that its decline happened due to a complex mix of cultural, economic, competitive, and operational issues. Is it the actual reason behind Hooters' decline? Let's find out. The very first Hooters opened in 1983 in Clearwater, Florida, by 6 businessmen. They wanted a place with a laid-back vibe where people could eat, watch sports, and feel like they were at the beach. The wide-eyed owl image and the name Hooters were both meant to be cheeky and fun, giving hints about the restaurant's theme without saying it too directly. The waitresses wore tights, bright orange shorts, and white tank tops. The clothes they wore quickly became one of the most recognized parts of the brand. They were called Hooters girls. The style went well with the style of the 1980s. At that time, jokes and topics about how women looked didn't get as much attention. People would say that Hooters was the best place for guys to get beers, eat wings, and talk to the nice servers. The places were bright, had lots of sports TVs, and were not overly fancy. Anyone could go there. You didn't need to dress up or act fancy. It was made for loud, casual fun. Through franchising, Hooters grew very quickly. This allowed other people to start restaurants with the same name and style. In the early 1990s and early 2000s, there were more than 400 Hooters restaurants around the world, some of which were in other countries. It worked for many years. People liked the menu, which always had wings, burgers, and other cooked favorites, and the relaxed, stress-free atmosphere. Still, there were problems going on below the surface, even when the chain was riding high. As people's ideas about gender roles and fairness at work began to change, some critics pointed out that Hooters seemed to treat women more like decorations than workers. The company kept saying it was all fun and safe, but more and more people didn't believe them. At the same time, the food menu didn't change, even though other places began to offer healthier and more trendy options. Hooters built its whole brand around a clear image: workers wearing revealing clothes, a focus on having fun, and a menu full of comfort food. This method worked for a long time, especially in the 1980s and 1990s. Guys could watch the game, eat wings, and talk with the staff in a way that made it feel like a boys' club. But as the years went by, that method seemed less useful. By the end of the 2010s, the Me Too movement had made more people talk about fair pay for men and women and how women were treated at work. Companies that sold sex appeal and made money from it were looked at more closely. As younger groups learned more about these problems, they started to think that the Hooters idea was out of date and rude. Newer ideas about being professional and fair clashed with the outfits and the Hooters girl image. Hooters tried to protect its brand as fun and safe, but many customers quietly went to other businesses that were more in line with their beliefs. Around the same time, people started changing how they ate. More folks were paying attention to their health, scanning menus for fresh salads, grilled proteins, plant-based options, and meals with clear nutrition facts. Meanwhile, Hooters was still serving up baskets of fried wings, big burgers, and heavy appetizers like it was stuck in a time capsule. Competitors didn't waste time catching on. Sandwich spots and salad chains started adding lighter choices. Chipotle lets people build bowls packed with fresh veggies. Even other wing joints like Wingstop jumped in with grilled chicken and veggie sides. Hooters, on the other hand, kept dishing out the same fried favorites with barely a gluten-free, vegan, or lighter option in sight. That made it a tough sell for health-conscious customers, especially younger people or couples who wanted a meal that didn't leave them feeling weighed down. With no big updates to the menu, Hooters started looking pretty out of step with what people wanted on their plates. On top of that, the idea of inclusion started to matter more. Hooters liked to say it welcomed everyone, but walking into one didn't exactly scream, "Open to all." The cheeky slogans, bright orange uniforms, and man cave sports bar vibe gave off the feeling that it was mostly a hangout for groups of guys. Parents didn't always love bringing their kids, and plenty of women and LGBTQ+ folks didn't feel super comfortable in a place that seemed laser-focused on catering to dudes. Competitors like Buffalo Wild Wings and Dave & Buster's handled this balance a lot better. They mixed sports and casual dining in a way that felt more family-friendly and welcoming. Trivia nights, arcade games, and craft beers gave everyone something to enjoy. Hooters stuck with its original blueprint and doubled down on a narrow identity that slowly pushed more people away. Over time, the customer base shrank to mostly older men, and as younger generations started leading the way with their tastes, that crowd just wasn't enough to keep things booming. This all created the perfect storm: shifting food trends, changing social attitudes, and rising competition all hitting at once. Because Hooters didn't budge much, it slipped behind rivals who updated menus, refreshed their brands, and built spaces that felt more inviting to a wider crowd. Big chains weren't the only ones in the race. Hooters also had to deal with a lot of new sports bars and breweries opening up all over the place. People were looking for smaller, more community-focused places to hang out, and these places catered to that need. When you walk in, you will see craft beers made just down the street, vegetables from farms nearby, and menus full of creative takes on basic bar food. These places didn't look like Hooters. They had more personality, with open brick walls, live music, and weird decorations that showed off the vibe of the neighborhood. There were charity events, quiz nights, and watch parties for games that brought people from the area together in a way that national chains just couldn't do. That vibe was liked by many buyers. These spots seemed less like ads and more like real people. People also no longer had to leave the couch to watch a game because of high-tech home entertainment systems and streaming services like Netflix and YouTube. With just a few taps, friends could get together at home, turn on a game, and order delivery. That took away from one of Hooters' big selling points. It was the place to go to watch sports. Then there was the pandemic, which sped up the move toward ordering food online and having it delivered to your house. Apps like Grubhub, DoorDash, and Uber Eats saved restaurants' lives, but Hooters wasn't up to speed. Its website and app weren't very smooth or easy to use, and many sites didn't have good ways to package food for takeout. At the same time, chains like Wingstop and Domino's had already gone all out with apps that were easy to use, loyalty programs, and strong relationships with delivery platforms. Sometimes they even followed social media trends by working with famous people and making ads that became popular. Ghost kitchens, which are restaurants that don't have a dining room but only send food, also grew quickly as a cheap way to reach customers. Hooters tried a similar thing with names like Hootie's Burger Bar and Hootie's Bait and Tackle, but they didn't work very well and didn't get much attention. These online side projects didn't catch on because most people didn't think of Hooters as a place for ease or cool new ideas. At the same time, there were too many people in the sports bars. It got harder to stand out even when it came to wings and beer. Some rivals pushed for better quality, like saying they used organic chicken or made their own sauces. Some people tried to be the fastest and least expensive. Hooters was stuck in the middle. It wasn't cheap enough to attract cheap eaters, but it wasn't high-end enough to support higher prices either. The prices of chicken, oil, and packaging all went up because of inflation after 2020. This meant that Hooters had to either raise prices or cut amounts. Customers were not happy with either choice, especially since wings were their signature dish. Big brands like KFC and McDonald's also got into the wing business and tried to steal some of Hooters' customers with their huge marketing funds and ability to reach people all over the world. Hooters were under a lot of pressure from all sides: direct rivals, trendy local options, delivery-first business models, and a market that was already too full. It was hard for it to stay popular, especially with younger people who were drawn to names that seemed more modern, open, and in line with their tastes. Costs were also going up, which made it even harder to set prices that people would pay. It wasn't cheap enough to compete with fast food chains like McDonald's or Wendy's, but it wasn't fancy enough to charge more either. As menu prices went up, many regulars left for cheaper places. That hurt Hooters' bottom line and made it harder for it to attract guests who were watching their spending. On top of everything else, Hooters had a hard time because of the lack of workers after the plague. It was hard for businesses all over the world to hire and keep staff, but Hooters had an extra problem. Most of the staff were young women. When people started to think about what kinds of jobs they wanted, that model didn't hold up well, because so much of their pay came from tips, which depended on having kind customers and busy jobs. A lot of them were fed up with the low pay. When the old outfits of bright orange shorts, tight tops, and required pantyhose were added, the job didn't seem like a good idea anymore. A lot of people were now waiting for jobs that paid more, had better perks, or had more flexible hours. Hooters could not keep up because they didn't have enough people to work the shifts. Some businesses had to cut back on their hours or close for a while. And while all of this was going on, lobbying and labor groups were stepping up their calls for better treatment of restaurant workers. That put more pressure on Hooters to make conditions better for workers, which of course made prices go up even more. In the past, franchising was what made Hooters grow so quickly. Letting small business owners open Hooters restaurants sped up the brand's growth. That system, however, began to feel more like a heavy anchor over time. It was also hard for franchisees, who had to pay fees and follow strict rules about goods and branding. A lot of owners couldn't make it work anymore because food prices were going up, labor costs were going up, and fewer people were coming in. Over 50 Hooters restaurants in the U.S. shut down for good between 2018 and 2023. Some angry owners even sued the parent company, saying that the strict rules and sky-high fees made it impossible for them to succeed. All of that trouble made things bad between the company owners and the local owners, which hurt everyone. The Hooters name became less noticeable and less important in some places as more and more sites closed. Then there was inflation. Just to make sure Hooters never got a break, everything went up in price after 2020, from chicken to cooking oil to takeaway boxes. At the same time, states kept raising the minimum wage, which made the cost of labor even higher. There was a squeeze in the middle for Hooters. You couldn't get it fast or cheap enough to compete with McDonald's, but it also wasn't fancy enough to charge high prices like fancy gastropubs. As menu prices went up to cover costs, regulars started to choose cheaper options instead. At the same time, that hurt the chain's profits and made it harder for it to attract cheap customers. In its early years, the franchise plan helped Hooters grow quickly, but over time, it became a burden. Franchise owners who were small business owners who paid to run Hooters restaurants had their own problems. It became harder to stay open as the prices of food and labor went up and customers stopped coming in. It got so expensive for many owners to keep running their restaurants that they had to close them. Over 50 Hooters restaurants in the U.S. closed for good between 2018 and 2023. They said that the high fees and tight rules about branding and supplies made it impossible for them to succeed. So some franchisees sued the parent company. These disagreements caused stress within the Hooters system and made it harder for company leaders and local owners to trust each other. In some areas, the name became less noticeable as more locations closed, making it less important to customers. If you compare Hooters to its competitors, you'll see that its brand image and marketing tactics are out of date. People in their 20s and 30s still thought that the restaurant's decor, like neon signs, wooden booths, and beach-themed trinkets, was out of date. Other chains changed the look of their stores by adding new lighting, open kitchens, or hip art, but Hooters kept things the same. Buffalo Wild Wings and other places have updated their spaces with new tables and screens for watching sports. This has given the places a more modern feel. The old-fashioned look of Hooters made it seem like a relic, especially to millennials and Gen Z eaters who like places that look good on Instagram or were tech-friendly. The chain's failure to update its look showed that it wasn't trying to appeal to younger people. The food also got boring over time. Hooters kept serving the same fried wings, burgers, and nachos, while its rivals tried out new global flavors, plant-based choices, and high-quality ingredients. It didn't pay attention to trends like spicy Korean-style wings, appetizers made with cauliflower, or fancy dipping sauces for years. When it finally added boneless wings, it was years after competitors like Wingstop had made them hot. People with special diets didn't like that there weren't many veggie or gluten-free options, so they went to chains like Chipotle or Sweetgreen instead. The food at Hooters started to feel bland and cheap as the prices went up. People found that for the same price, They could get better wings, burgers, or soups somewhere else, so Hooters became less important to them. The marketing activities were also not in sync. Hooters relied on nostalgia by running contests like Hooters Girl of the Year and running ads that reminded people of its heyday in the 1980s. These campaigns focused on the chain's signature playful, slightly risque image, but they didn't connect with younger people who cared more about being real or doing good. While Starbucks and Chick-fil-A focused on being environmentally friendly or helping the community, Hooters' messages seemed more general. To stay current, they did things like sponsoring race cars or partnering with UFC events, but these actions didn't seem to be based on what customers wanted. The work on social media was also not very good. Competitors used Instagram and TikTok to create viral challenges or work with influencers. But Hooters just posted boring material that didn't get people interested. It was hard to use to order online, and the app didn't have any of the features that chains like Domino's used to keep customers coming back, like loyalty awards or personalized deals. As younger groups, like Millennials and Gen Z, took over as the main spending force, Hooters had a hard time staying relevant in popular culture. Honesty, sustainability, and social responsibility are very important to these groups, but Hooters didn't put those ideals first. While brands like Chick-fil-A and Starbucks talked about how they were good for the environment, Hooters stuck to what it knew how to do. Its image, which was based on objectification and greasy bar food, met with calls for openness and honest business practices. Younger customers were interested in where their food came from, how workers were treated, and whether businesses gave back to the community. That's not what Hooters had to offer. It seemed out of touch because it didn't have many plant-based options, didn't do much to protect the environment, and didn't say anything about social problems. Once thought of as cheeky, even the outfits now seemed like a holdover from a time when everyone wasn't welcome. Teenagers and young adults then flocked to restaurants that shared their beliefs, leaving Hooters behind. The growth around the world added more problems. People in other countries didn't want Hooters to expand, so it did. People in the UK, Australia, and some parts of Asia didn't like the brand's Hooters Girl idea. Some people said it was disrespectful and out of date, saying that the outfits and atmosphere made women look like objects. In places where modesty and gender roles are highly valued, the idea went against what people thought was right. In the past, Hooters opened restaurants in Shanghai and Dubai, but they got bad reviews and few customers. Efforts to adapt, like changing the uniforms or adding local food to the menu, were patchy and didn't get to the root of the problem, which was that the brand's personality didn't work well outside of its American roots. McDonald's and KFC were successful around the world by changing their meals and ads to fit local tastes. Hooters, on the other hand, stuck to what worked in the US because they thought it would work everywhere. This rigidity caused businesses to shut down in key areas, which reduced its global reach. Changes in the US population also hurt Hooters. Cities became more diverse, with more newcomers and younger people who didn't feel connected to the chain in any way. These groups usually liked fast casual restaurants like Sweetgreen or Chipotle that let them customize their meals and serve healthy options, or they liked ethnic restaurants that serve food from their own cultures. Even sports fans, who usually go to Hooters, found other places to eat. People who were looking for more than just wings and TVs went to brewpubs with craft beer, kombucha on tap, and homemade food. Because Hooters wouldn't change from its 1980s look, it became useless in cities where fashions changed quickly. At the same time, the chain lost customers in suburban and rural areas where it used to do well because of more competition from fast food chains with family-friendly menus like Applebee's. Hooters tried to make money in areas other than its struggling stores, but these plans and actions were not always well thought out or carried out. A short-lived airline that came out in 2003 was Hooters Air. The idea was to mix travel with the brand's fun image by having flight attendants dress up as Hooters employees and serving wings on board. But the business failed very quickly. It costs a lot to run a plane, and Hooters had no experience in the field. People quickly got tired of the idea and learned that the flights weren't cheaper or better than those offered by regular airlines. Hooters Air closed after only 2 years, which cost millions of dollars and hurt the reputation of the business. This failure showed that Hooters like to go after big ideas without doing enough research or planning for the long run. Another try was the release of frozen foods in 2020, which was meant to take advantage of the rise in home cooking during the pandemic. In grocery shops, Hooters sold frozen wings, sauces, and starters. People were cooking at home more, so it seemed like the right time for the goods. But they didn't do well. There were already a lot of big names in the frozen wing market, like Tyson and Conagra, whose networks of stores and prices were better. It was hard to find Hooters goods on store shelves, and the company didn't spend any money on ads to let people know about them. People who liked the place didn't see a reason to buy frozen meals when they could get them delivered or make them themselves. The frozen line slowly went away because it wasn't able to bring in enough money. The chain also tried out virtual brands, which are delivery-only businesses that run out of current kitchens. They opened Hootie's Burger Bar and Hootie's Bait and Tackle during the outbreak to sell burgers and seafood through apps like DoorDash. But these ideas seemed random and hard to understand. Customers didn't get how it was related to Hooters, and the choices weren't clear enough to stand out. It was hard for the virtual brands to stand out because they didn't have clear branding or marketing. Competitors like Chuck E. Cheese were more successful with similar tactics when they gave their pizza delivery brands completely different names. Hooters' half-hearted tries were lackluster and unfocused, which led to yet another dead end. Selling things in stores was another chance that was missed. Hooters had branded things like t-shirts, hot sauces, and a calendar with Hooters Girls, but these items didn't sell very well. Too much of the merchandise was based on the chain's old image, which meant it only appealed to die-hard fans and not to a wider public. At the same time, companies like McDonald's and Starbucks turned their logos into fashion statements by selling drinks, clothes, and other items that people wanted to show off. Hooters products, on the other hand, seemed more like novelty presents than things that most people would want. Their impact and profits were limited because they didn't try new things with design or marketing. The biggest problem with all of these ideas was that they weren't related to Hooters' main problems. The company didn't work on fixing its failing restaurant business by updating products, making the customer experience better, or investing in technology. Instead, it worked on side projects that took its attention away from its main problems. These projects didn't have enough money or good marketing, and they were often given up too soon. For instance, Hooters had a short-lived relationship with a Las Vegas casino and sponsored race cars, but these partnerships didn't lead to long-term customer engagement or sales. They didn't seem like well-thought-out plans to rebuild the brand, but rather desperate attempts to stay relevant. Let me take a break and inform you that we have created an ebook for the top 100 businesses that you can start this year, and we will give away this ebook for free. Just comment on our video and I will share the link to download it. Let's get back to the video. To stop its slide, Hooters needs to make big changes to its look, menu, and business practices while keeping the things that loyal customers still like. First, the brand needs to change its look to reflect modern ideals without giving up its fun side. This means rethinking the famous uniforms and replacing them with stylish, sporty clothes that are more fun and less objectifying. It also means updating the old 1980s surroundings with local art or interactive sports screens and a cleaner, more modern look. The sports bar vibe could be kept while attracting younger people. TGI Fridays and other competitors have done a great job of combining nostalgia with modern design, showing that you can change without giving up custom. The menu also needs a lot of work. Hooters should keep classics like wings, but add healthier choices like grilled chicken, plant-based proteins, and fresh salads, as well as flavors from around the world, like Korean BBQ or mango habanero sauces. Health-conscious customers would like it if restaurants were clear about their ingredients, like antibiotic-free chicken or sustainable sources. Getting people excited about food again might be possible through partnerships with food influencers or limited-time viral items, like Hooters Heatwave sauces sold on TikTok. Updating technology is very important. To compete with chains like Wingstop, which have done well by emphasizing digital ease of use, you would need an app that is easy to use and has features like seamless ordering, loyalty awards, and real-time delivery tracking. Locations that only do delivery, called ghost kitchens, could reach more people without the high cost of full-service restaurants. Tech in stores, like menus with QR codes or tablets for buying, would speed up service and cut down on wait times. There needs to be more use of social media as well. Gen Z might become interested again if you post interesting content like behind-the-scenes kitchen tours or hot wing challenges. Improving how employees are treated is just as important. Fair wages, better perks, and programs to help people advance in their careers would help you hire good people and stop people from criticizing your old-fashioned workplace rules. Changing the standards for pantyhose and making uniforms more comfortable would boost staff morale and the public's opinion of the company. The brand's image could become more professional if training programs focused on social skills instead of how people look. Lastly, getting involved in the community could help Hooters' image. It would become more popular if it worked with local sports teams, charity events, or family-friendly activities like quiz nights. Giving the money from wing sales to food banks as part of marketing campaigns would show that the company cares about being socially responsible. These changes will take guts and money, but Hooters could end up being a nostalgic footnote if they don't happen. By combining new ideas with its core values, the chain was able to create a new identity that respects current values while staying true to its roots. This shows that you can change without going away. Do you think businesses like Hooters can survive in recent times? Share your views in the comment section below. If you want us to cover any particular topic, leave it in the comment section and we will take it from there. Till then, you can check out our already existing gem of the videos. If you enjoyed watching the video, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. See you soon in another video.